So, the shadow work session. Shadow work is something that we try and work on every month in the Gypsy Tribe sessions. And of course, I'm always giving it to you in a spectrum so that if you want to feel as though I'm ready to take on the world, I've got energy, I've got all of my delegates stood up, I'm grounded, I'm centered, I'm ready to rock, you can do the self-care and moderate your energy. Take it to the limit, right? You can really go deep into the shadow work and take it as far as you'd like. But of course, we always share that liability waiver, that shadow work, what does that mean exactly? It means that you're going to be delving into yin energy. You're going to be going into your thoughts and into your feelings, into earth and water magic. And anytime that we do that, we always want to look at the astrology and the timing as well. And November specifically has a lot of water energy and a lot of earth energy. There's a lot of big Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn shifts going into Capricorn. There's just a lot of Mercury in Scorpio, the Sun in Scorpio. We have the Moon in Scorpio. We have a lot of pretty crazy things happening as far as overabundance of earth and water, which means if the scale is already tipping this way out there in the astrological realm, that if you tip it that way in your centered space, it could easily become anxiety or depression. So with that being said, we try and do all the things: grounding, protecting, centering, meditating, making sure, or just going, you know what, I've got too many things this month. I've got work, I've got school, I've got this, I've got that, I've got COVID, I've got blah, 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 blah. I don't have the time. But shadow work can be done on layers and levels. Just like anything else, it is very much like therapy. It doesn't have to be a crying session. It doesn't have to be catharsis on a deep transformative level. It can be something small and shallow. It can be shallow shadow work. So take a flashlight, if you will, and just look at the spectrum. This month, what we are going to be going into is the Reaper. So because you have a lot of liminal holidays, you have Halloween, you have a lot of Celtic, Druid, Wiccan, pagan holidays that really are looking at this northern hemisphere as it drifts into winter, as we are losing light, as you take a candle and whoosh, like a candle in the wind. This is death. This is grief. This is the crossroads, but not so much the crossroads of selling your soul to the devil and doing something or bartering. It's grief. It is the Reaper and timing. It is death. It is all of those things. So, of course, in shadow work, the deep, deep, deep level, I'll go into that in a moment. But if you're wanting to just be shallow, I want you to maybe consider cemetery symbols. Earth magic is what we see in information. It's things that really establish strong intentions, a planted seed that you can be firm about. So if you are grieving, a lot of times having that milestone, that tombstone, that marker, that indicator of death, those objects, those sentimental objects that we hold on to, they're earth markers. They're symbols like a sigil that denote a time and a space and a special moment in space-time. And cemetery symbols have their own very cryptic language. There are certain symbols and fonts, placements, Freemason signs, eras that didn't put times or names or dates on certain people. Lilacs being planted in rows on indigenous land for miscarried babies or loss of children. Things that are very fragrant to the air and things that you find in cemetery magic. Gopher dust, things like this. It's very important to know that you can just simply go to a cemetery and, if allowed, do a chalk dusting, do artwork, take photography, spend time there, volunteer, clean the headstones. Denote space and time to the sentimental items in your life and grieve appropriately. And that's just a really shadow way of checking in on that psychic drain we're going to be experiencing. Now, all this water tipping us, we're going to be going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, woo! And some of this is going to be causing major psychic drain. So again, we want to check ourselves with protection, grounding, and centering. Only do what you have the energy to do. Don't push it. Don't be a salt and pepper song. But if you are wanting to go a little deeper still into shadow work, what I would suggest and what I will be doing with some of my Gypsy Tribe members personally or asking you to do in your own spare time and then meditating together in a session and discussing what it is we experience in that magical space, of thinking, for example, how you see the Reaper. Meditate with the image of death. How do you see it? There are many images, genders, suggestions to color, space, time, age, how it looks, what it's wearing. What I love about the beauty in death and necromancer magic, I often will refer to myself as a necromancer because I do liminal magic and I work with the Grim Reaper a lot. Forensic psychology, being around death and trauma, it's kind of a byproduct of circumstance. But the Grim Reaper has many faces, but yet never has a face. When I'm working with psychopaths, or we are working with people on the autistic spectrum, mental health, and trying to gauge that connection, that empathy, even with a narcissist and someone manipulating, eye contact, being able to read facial cues, seeing a picture of the same family, one that's smiling and one that's not, and say, which one's happier? And to know intuitively the difference just by looking at someone's facial expressions. I think it's quite beautiful that death has been drawn in a way cross-culturally to be faceless, that it either has a shroud or no face at all, not to be scary, not to be our worst nightmare, but to be a strong pillar of yin energy, often interpreted as darkness and the yin and yang. Earth and water, our thoughts and feelings, our flashbacks in time of our life, our purpose, how we feel about that, and that it wouldn't be judging us, that it wouldn't give us any suggestion. It's not grieving with us, it's not sympathetic, he's not crying. There's no facial recognition to really determine so much a gender, though it does usually seem to be masculine, as if it's coming out of yang to take us. I love the symbolism, the way in which the Reaper is drawn throughout religions and cultures. The tools, the blade to cut the veil, having coins to barter and pay your way across the river Styx, the waterway to the other space. Where are you going when you die? What does the Reaper look like in your mind? Now, the deep shadow work, of course, would be to meditate on that. Okay, we meditate on that and we come up with our thoughts, we journal it, we write it out, we can do a candle, we can make it an entire ritual, or it can just be a thought session before bed. But if you want to go deeper, even deeper shadow work, I'll use myself as an example. I want you to think of the first time you met death. What do you mean? You experienced death. My first funeral, I believe it, my grandpa on my mom's side. I don't remember getting the news. I don't remember being there when my mom got the news. I vaguely remember driving in the car, the long distance drive, arriving in the night. People were sad. I didn't have a deep connection with that grandfather. He was kind of mean. But I remember the funeral. I remember staring at another little boy who was about my age who was playing the bass beautifully. I remember thinking my grandpa didn't look like himself dead in the casket, but I wasn't as sad as everyone else. So, I wasn't there when death happened. I wasn't there when the message was even delivered. I saw death a week, maybe a week and a half after it had come and gone. I saw it in the physical sense, in a latency. My emotions were this. The details were this. The timing was this. We get a sense of proximity, emotions, reference points that are very important to magic. Second time I experienced death, I was still a little girl. We had bunnies that were kept outside in a shed. Lots of bunnies. We also had a Rottweiler. She had gotten into the bunnies. I didn't know this, of course, and I was young and broke out into the yard and I was going to go get out the baby bunnies and hold them and pet them like a John Malkovich. And I walked into a very gory scene. Blood everywhere. Bunny pieces. It was horrific. Death had just been there. Not a week. Not a day. Hours. Blood. Still present. I could still smell it. Now, I wasn't sad. What happened? Who did this? Oh my God. Now, I was a little girl. I wasn't supposed to go play with the bunnies without an adult. I was really nervous I was going to get in trouble. I was really scared. What happened and who did this could still be around. I wasn't sure. There was a lot of panic and fear, blame and guilt. Close proximity, shortly thereafter, pain and guilt. How long did it last? How did I move through it? How has that affected me today? What did death look like then? The colors, the feelings, the imagery was very different. It was Watership Down. The third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh. How many times have you met death? What can you learn about the proximity to when you're there? If you're a hospice nurse, you know what it's like before, during, and after. You know the sounds, the feelings you have. You might even be familiar with how you grieve. People you know, people you don't know. People that die horrifically, people that die peacefully. You begin to experience death. You begin to know death. What death feels like, what it sounds like, in every stage for you. For the most part, it's pretty similar across the board, but there will be differences. There will be reasons that you are scared before or after that other people aren't. There will be reasons in the grieving process that you emotionally act this way and another person is acting this way. Understanding how we operate in those spaces, thinking about death, thinking about grief, taking the time, of course, after this session to say thank you for this information, and grieving our loved ones or any of those experiences that have left a negative impact. Because the idea with magic is, of course, to manipulate for good, to have the best possible outcome. And that if with Gestalt psychology and meditation we can go back and think of those thoughts, we can write them down, we can use this information for good, like the world, to apply it, a lesson, full circle. We have to think about it, right? Forgive but not forget. Wash the water clean, baptize yourself of any negative emotions. Cry it out, grieve naturally, and keep nothing but love in that space to share. Only keep the good stuff in your glass. Scrape the rest off of your plate on that buffet of the universe, and just take what you love and what you need and what you want to share with other people in your life. And the rest of it, just know, I don't like the meatloaf. I'm not going to get more of that next time. And by knowing that, by knowing death, we can experience how to cope easily, how to be aware, how to prepare, and also how to keep ourselves from being used and abused when people are grieving or experience death in their own space. So take that with what you will, guys. Shadow work is always very, very complicated stuff, and that's why we do it together in the Gypsy Tribe. So if you are interested in more shadow work, check me out online on social media for prompts, of course, and don't hesitate to check out the Gypsy Tribe at paranormalsarah.com and learn more on how to join us today. Bye-bye, guys.